All right, so we got Mossman out of the pack, and I gotta say, just right off the bat, I'm impressed with how big he is. I mean, this is just huge, absolutely huge. I mean, I never would have imagined they would have squeezed a figure this big into this box. I mean, never would have, never would have imagined. I messed up. Hey, friends and revolutionaries! Sorry about last week, guys. I took the computer in, had to take a look at it. I still don't know what's wrong. I still don't know what's wrong. Yeah, I'm going to get back to doing the review on the figures. I still want to do some commentary on the show, even though from what I've seen, everybody and their dog has done commentary on the show. I've got a few 2 cents I want to put in myself, so on the on the like to do list, but yeah. In the meantime, I figured let's go ahead, let's get back to the figures, and let's move on to the second to last in what am I going on about? I'm going on about the Masters of the Universe Revelations, the Netflix original series, the probably defunct Masterverse. Mossman, the Revelations Mossman. Mossman. Gosh. It was something where I was kind of confused as to why they put Mossman in here. Was he going to be that big a character? Really? He was really nowhere in the original series. He came out pretty late in the run. The 2000X series, I didn't think it was that big. So Mossman now, how big a role is he going to play? And it turns out not a very big one. It was not a very big role at all. Turns out that I think the reason he's in this first wave has less to do with him as a character and the role in the story, but it's more of a tribute to the voice actor. I've said it before, and I won't get into it a whole lot here, but I will say that Mossman in the Netflix series is voiced by Alan Oppenheimer, the legendary Alan Oppenheimer, the man who is like 50% of the Filmation series voices. I mean, he was Skeletor, he was Man-at-Arms, he was Cringer, he was Battle Cat, he was Incidental Villager number 12 through 208. I mean, Alan Oppenheimer was a huge part of that original series, and I looked it up, and he is celebrated his 91st birthday this year. So even though I'm not big enough for him to take any notice of me, Mr. Oppenheimer, happy belated birthday, sir. Thank you, thank you for your contribution to the Masters of the Universe. But yeah, I think that Alan Oppenheimer voicing Mossman in the show and putting Mossman in the first run, probably had a lot. What was him being there probably was one of the reasons he was in the first run of figures. I'm almost positive there's not a big enough reason for them to put Mossman in if it had been voiced by anyone else. But yeah, I thought I'd throw that out there. That was one of the things that I was going to mention in the commentary under the voice acting, because again, huge voice acting cast, great cast of actors and actresses, fantastic marquee cast. But Alan Oppenheimer, the man who really set the tone for that Filmation series, he voiced Mossman, and today we get a look at the figure from that series. Take a look at the packaging. Typical Masters of the Universe Revelation packaging. Got the blue stone background. Kind of got the, I don't know, a little decoration at the top. Got the Mossman, Heroic Spy and Master of Camouflage. So they're drawing the subtitle of the character, their role, directly off of the old Filmation series. I don't know if I know the Master Universe Classics had that kind of thing on there. So so to see that still carried over, that's kind of cool. Big open window, no blister, no bubble, no dimple. So again, not gonna leave that out. I'm gonna rag on that until they change it. Put the dimple in, re-release them, put a dimple in. On the side, we've got the portrait of Mossman, which is not bad. I mean, it certainly is Mossman, I guess. The back, we've got Mossman again, demonstrating that Master of Camouflage and the woody, forest, leafy, planty thing, with Skeletor and Beastman kind of off in the distance, which I think is a neat little addition there. You could have had Skeletor with anybody else, but clearly they've got Beastman, who, for old Master Universe hats like me, for old hands at the figures, you'll remember the original Mossman was just a re-release, a recast with that green static flock of Beastman. So you put Beastman here, nice little nod to the original figure. Whether or not they really meant to do that, I don't know. But it was kind of fan servicey. I think that's one thing I like about Mossman. I mean, even out of the pack, just having the figure, just having it, there's a lot of fan service surrounding Mossman. And I'll talk about it more when we get him open and we're going to talk about things. But on his write-up says, Mossman, Heroic Spy, and Master of Camouflage wants to believe nothing more than a legend. The mythical Praetorian plant creature Mossman is wise beyond his millions of years. His powers of great strength, plant control, and shape-shifting into any form of plant life makes him an invaluable ally to He-Man to fight against Skeletor. As a protector of Castle Grayskull's secrets, Mossman sagely helps guide his friend He-Man to the right path. Well, that's yet to be seen. That is yet to be seen. As the lineup for the first wave, we've now got to look at all of them, or this will be all of the ones listed. He-Man, now Mossman, Skeletor, and EVIL-LYN. Skelegod, who is not featured, we took a look at. And there'll be one last one, so this is the second to last figure we've got to take a look at. Again, Skelegod isn't listed, but we did him. The last one, I'm sure you knew who I'm talking about. But yeah, let's take a look at Mossman out of the pack. Let's go ahead and pop him open, take a look, have some fun. Be right back. All right, so we've got Mossman out of his pack, and wow, what a difference in character design than I've seen from previous Mossman figures. And I'm going to get to his standing here in just a minute. That's one of the problems I've got. but yeah. One of the hallmarks of the Masters of the Universe series, at least a good Masters of the Universe series, is the charm of them recycling parts. I made the comment on the He-Man figure that that they would use his base body to kind of do other versions of characters, that they would go to the Masters of the Universe Classics line. Not so with Mossman. Not so with Mossman at all. Pretty much everything on this figure is completely original from what I can tell. I don't think there's been any other plant-themed beast character that uses any sculpting from this. This is wholly original sculpting for this character, which is impressive. It's something where they could very easily have taken that base He-Man figure and for his upper torso, just sculpted kind of a plastic piece that goes over his top, over his shoulders. Maybe some forearm pieces. Of course, they can always sculpt new hands. The shaggy shorts, they can resculpt those. Maybe just a plastic cover that goes over his legs. The feet, well, the feet are a whole other mess. But for them to have gone through and really just did a whole new sculpt for the entire figure, that's pretty impressive investment. That's a pretty impressive step to take, considering this is really, it's going to be kind of an unknown venture as how well the show's going to do. And they went through and they did a whole new sculpt on a figure. I mean, I know they all are, but not to just reuse the He-Man base was kind of surprising. It's something where he's appropriately sculpty or mossy, kind of seaweedy actually. When I look at it, it doesn't seem as, the shaggy short, well, no. Pretty much the entire theme of the figure definitely seems to be less moss and more kind of just seaweed gunk. I think it's appropriately swampy. I think this is exactly the kind of algae-ridden creature that would come crawling out of the swamp, but it's definitely not in line with the old version of the figure. We'll see how different it is, really. Yeah, I mean but it's impressive. I like I like how the vines are. I don't know. Yeah, I guess you would call them the vines. Kind of stretch across the body in various places. The sculpting on the legs, you can see how the sculpting on the legs is really involved. The feet, again, the feet are a bit of a mess. The root kind of toe, kind of curl up a bit. He sort of rests on the back of his ankles, so he doesn't really stand flush. For as wide as the feet are, for as big and wide as the feet are, they are a bit of a letdown because he doesn't really stand on those. He kind of rests on the back of his feet, on the back heels. So it doesn't help him stand any better than any of the other figures, despite the fact that he's got those widely sculpted toes, those roots. Can't get past the extra leaf they've got sculpted there and over here. That's a nice little touch. One of the things that are going to stand out for old Master Universe fans, and we'll go ahead and bring in the Master Universe Classics version. I don't have a vintage figure, like a retro vintage figure, not even my original one anymore. But the Master Universe Classics version was a very nicely remake of that classic figure. And I was happy that they went through and they actually flocked him with the static grass, and actually recreated the old Master Universe Classics, or the vintage Master Universe Mossman. You can see there's the Beastman face that they just reused, but covered him in that green static grass. And just created Mossman. The reuse of an old figure with just a little extra decoration. Here, not even close. Not even close. Clearly, there are some things that they did carry over. Particularly, if you look at the forehead, got kind of a sculpted forehead decoration. The vintage, or the Master Universe Classics version, and the vintage version for that matter, have kind of this kind of Klingon-like ridges on his forehead, being a reuse of Beastman. Here, they just kind of sculpted a leaf on his forehead. Gave him some shaggy eyelashes and a beard. I would buy that these are the same person. These are the same character, one just being an update of the other. But as a fan, as a long-term, old-school fan, what I would have liked to have seen them do was if they had just taken, not all of it, but maybe just these lighter green parts on his upper body, his head, shoulders, forearms, and then maybe his lower legs, and giving him that static rash flock treatment. You know, if they had given that flock just on those parts, you know, the mid-torso, the biceps, the legs, the feet. Now, you can even left the hands as they are, but just in those spots, here, 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 and then the lower legs, if they had flocked that, I think that would have been a great callback to the old figure. Such as it is, it is. You know, that's nothing you can do. It just apparently was just too much trouble for them to go through. They'll resculpt a whole new figure, but they won't go so far as to flock it. Okay. All right. Okay. One of the things that I would have liked with the flock, because I'm sure that it was part of the actual process of coating him in the static grass, is that both the original figure and the Master Universe Classics had kind of a forest scent, kind of that pine sol scent. Even now, even right now, he's got that hint of kind of pine smell to him. Which, you know, that the static grass, which still stays on really well, hasn't peeled off or start to come off in any way. That and that slight hint of pine. I mean, that is so Mossman. This one, all sculpt and yeah, just plastic smell, just the smell of plastic. Which, you know, when I saw the show, and this is something where I talk a little bit more about in the commentary, but in the show, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it. Okay, I'll spoil it. Spoil it if you haven't seen the show. You got okay. No, I'm not gonna do it. Back and forth. No, I'm not gonna do it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Or wish me luck that I get this audio thing working. But yeah, moving on back to the figure, the articulation. You can take a look again. I love the paint. I love the two-tone paint, three-tone paint actually. I think that flock is the only thing that would have made it better. But taking a look, he does have a ball-jointed head. Doesn't get a lot of range, but got some up and down, side to side. Arms come up, out, twist the shoulder, bicep, double joint at the elbow, twist at the wrist with the hinge. He's got a little bit of a swivel on the upper torso, twist at the waist, leg does come up, and there's a split in the shorts here, which I don't think is really helping that much, but the leg does come up, out. There's a double joint at the knee, which, considering how large its lower leg is, I don't think we're going to get a lot of benefit out of. You know, they got a double joint at the knee, but it doesn't really look as though you're going to get much of a benefit out of it. There's no twist at the top of the thigh, or of the calf, but there is a twist at the foot and a hinge. And because it's got that twist, I don't seem to have a pivot. I don't seem to have, it doesn't look like there's a rocker in that ankle. There's a hinge there, and there's a twist, but not really anything else. It's a little bit different from the other figures. I don't know if they quite had the foot down. I don't think they quite managed to get the foot to work the way they wanted. Taking a look, you got that extra vines running over his calf. I mean, when you take a look at him, I mean, I've had him out of the pack for a little while now, and when I take a look at him, there's always a little bit something extra to spot. It's quite an impressive sculpt. Clearly, they were trying to make up for the fact that it's not going to be flocked. It wasn't going to be like the vintage figure, but they certainly wanted to give it as much personality as they could. Just wish he stood a little better. Like all the Master Universe Revelations figures, he does come with extra hands. He has no weapon. So it's something where it seems as though that just because all of these Revelation figures have to have extra hands, they gave him 2 extra sets. And they just seem to be various stages of being kind of half closed and then open to being kind of reaching out claws. Oh. So 3 stages of his hands being open. Considering he doesn't have a weapon, I just don't understand the need for extra hands. I think this hand, or these set of hands, or even this set of hands would have been fine. As a matter of fact, I think this open claw set of hands probably should have been the default hands he had come with. Pop that out. Put it in. It's not quite as menacing as it can be. I guess that's the thing, is that these clawed hands here can be menacing, but also just kind of sublime. Now, rather than having these extras, rather than doing all of these, I do wish they would have had gone through and redid the weapon equivalent, which is his kind of vine shooting out from his fingers. Seems a whole lot like a Brainiac from the Justice League, from the DC animated universe, with his robotic tentacles. This is I don't know why, something about that, this kind of shooting out from his fingers kind of goes in that direction. It gives me that Brainiac vibe. I would have liked them to have done a second hand of those shooting out, and maybe found a way to keep the hand kept him balanced better with the hand open, or with that hand on. Maybe not. That's putting a lot of weight on the hinge, and that little peg that goes into his forearm, I don't really think is going to be able to take it. Even if I could get him to stand. Okay, there we go. Okay, it makes more sense now with his toes being the way they are. He's resting all on this one foot. This foot right here is, I don't know if you can see it, let me move it back a bit. You can see that foot is not standing flush. So he's kind of balanced on this one foot. I don't know, maybe if they had had a left hand that was the same type of thing, that maybe pegged in a little bit better, that didn't seem like it was putting so much stress on the hinge, maybe it would have worked better, maybe, but I'm not sure. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. At least not as it's done here. And for the extra hands, it just seems like it was required. It was just, it's all the other figures have it, so is Moss Man. But taking a look, here is, let's put him here, and let's go ahead and bring in He-Man. Not that he and He-Man spent much time together on screen. Wasn't much of an interaction with him and He-Man, but just kind of take a look at the two figures together. You know, on camera in the light, that green really pops. It's not quite that vibrant in person. On camera, it looks really, really nice, but I don't know, it seems a little more dull when I'm looking at it in person. If we set He-Man aside for a second, we'll go ahead and we'll bring in Skeletor, which I think is a better character to show with him for reasons, reasons we won't get into, reasons we won't spoil. And one last time, we'll bring in that Master Universe Classics Boss Man. Just again, to really emphasize the difference in the figures, the size, the scale, just the evolution of the character from the early 2000s, 2000 teens, to this 2021 version. So not too shabby. I mean, different for sure, not too shabby. I don't know if you're a big enough Master Universe fan. I think you'll enjoy having him. I'm glad I got him. Getting him out of the pack, I'm more impressed than I thought he'd be when he was in. But as it is, yeah, we're almost wrapped up with the first set of the Master Universe Revelations figures. I've seen previews of the next set and who's going to be in that. We'll wrap up the last figure in this line, and then we'll move on to some other figures, some other sets, and see what happens. But in the meantime, hope you enjoy watching. Rate, comment, subscribe, join the revolution. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.